probably lose him otherwise. And look, Carly Goodrich, of course, is one of our vice presidents of Play Australia, so it's great to see Carly's here too. Mandy, can I congratulate you for having got this amazing network of people together, because I'm trying to remember that the very first time you and I met was when, as I was telling you yesterday, you developed for Nillumbik Shire what is still, in my view, the best tender brief for a playground of all time. And I frequently give it to people. And of course, it turned out to be the Butterfly Park in Eltham, which, of course, is one of our much-loved spaces. So, you know, I think it's marvellous what you're doing. And I've just been reminded a minute ago that in South Australia, there's been a local government rec network like this that's existed for a long time. And I can remember when we were setting up our branch in Adelaide, that friends were telling me how important this network was, and that it is different from the landscape architect network. It's different from planners networks. And they banged on endlessly about the importance of this rec network. And when I look at everybody who's here today, many of whom I've known over the years, and of course almost all of your councils are members of ours, I am of course reminded how important recreation is. And so just really thanks. You've played a marvellous role, and no doubt will continue to do so. And we certainly do not intend in any way to distract from, I guess, what you're doing, because you're clearly doing a wonderful job. Mandy's asked me to talk a little bit about where Play Australia is at, because we have undertaken some significant changes. As many of you will know, we've been around for, 105, 106 years. I haven't been around for all of that time, but one hell of a long time. It's like about 21 years, I think. And up until relatively recently, we've concentrated on playgrounds, and your councils are all members of ours, and I have had most to do with people who work in the management and maintenance areas of playgrounds and design, of course. But about a year ago, we took a very fundamental decision to change our focus. Not that we don't continue to support our members, and we hope to do that better than ever, but we've added the whole advocacy of play area to our brief, I suppose, because we changed the name. We're developing branches across the country, and they're made up of people such as yourselves who come together just like the old PRAV committee has done for many years. So we have a national board, which is half the membership is from outside Victoria, and I would imagine that in the next few years, Victoria will have much the same representation on the national board as other states do. And so we think that's really important in terms of being truly national. And of course, arising from this has come our relationship with Sport Australia. And very largely through my now colleague Kieran, who some of you will know, we have been able to develop this terrific new project called the 1000 Play Streets project, which I'll get him to tell you about in a minute. We've also spent some considerable time in the last little while, actually, and we were saying this morning that, whilst you have to turn these circumstances into opportunities, for us it's been a very terrific opportunity because we've been able to focus on the strategic planning side of our organisation. And so we now have a new 5-year strategic plan, and that's very much around advocating for play and how we need to connect across the country with all of our potential partners to be able to do that. So we'll continue with the very strong relationship with members. Obviously, the online associations with people, I must admit I like working online because we do it a lot anyway. but you know, I am looking forward to being able to go and actually be with my colleagues again. But we have to make the best of what we can, and we're certainly doing our best to deal with that. Financially, we don't think we've been too seriously impacted because our resources have largely come from government. We're going to be asking Sport Oz to give us a further round of funding so that we can continue with the pilot project about 1,000 play streets. So I'm having a wonderful time, and I can't tell you how good it is to be able to have a colleague to work with, because the board and I have a fantastic relationship, but I now also share that with my colleague Kieran. So Kieran, in introducing him, he's clearly younger than me. Well, that wouldn't be hard, which is really important for the development of our sector. He's worked at Sport Oz, he's worked at Vic Health, and he's very, very much comes from that public health perspective. And of course, that's really fundamental to why we actually think that advocating for play is really very important. It's important now because of all the stats that you people are all as familiar with as we are about the lack of activity, physical activity of kids and young people today, and the likely health outcomes for that. So that's kind of where we're going. And perhaps if I can hand over to Kieran and leave it to him for the time being.
Thanks, Barb. I'm quite amazed at how many people are online. It's I think Barb sort of said jump on for a chat, and we've yeah, this is a few more than I was expecting, but it's absolutely wonderful. So I've come on board Play Australia in the last few months and driving the 1,000 Play Streets movement, and it is a really interesting time for active play advocacy. Because we see the emergence of physical literacy over the last 2 years. It's good to see that we've got a national statement on that, and really for us, we see play as physical literacy, or at the very least the foundation of physical literacy, which is kind of interesting when we're looking at the relationship between active play and sport and recreation, because we feel that if we can get active play right, particularly in the early years, we're going to see stronger outcomes across sport and recreation and movement in life in general. So look, where I come in is I came on board to look after the 1,000 Play Streets movement, and I want to tell you a little bit about 1,000 Play Streets. This is our push for Australians to reclaim their streets as places to connect with their neighbours and play. I grew up in the 1980s, and I guess BMX Bandits was big back then, and we just tore around in our BMX bikes, forever and a day, and all across the weekends, and we really played out in the streets a lot. And these days, for a number of reasons, we don't. Parent perceptions. Am I a good parent if I let my child play out in the street? We've got traffic issues. We've got all these safety issues, and we've got all this compliance as well at all our different government levels, which makes it really tricky for parents just to say, all right, kids, go out and play. So what we've done is we've sort of said to Sport Australia, look, can you give us some funding, and we'll work with 5 councils, and we're working with 2 councils over in WA, 1 in Queensland and 2 in Victoria, being Darebin and Moreland. And we've sort of said, look, how can we make, this is our question to councils, how can we make it as easy as possible for local community members to organise street play in their streets and get these temporary permits to make it happen? Which is kind of interesting, because you can have the most motivated of community members who wants to close down their street and get kids playing out. However, they might have to organise their own public liability to get their permit. They might have to organise their own traffic management plan and organise traffic control. Generally, they'll have to get consensus of about sort of 75% of residents living adjacent to that street to make it happen. And there might be further steps they need to take around managing risk. So it can be quite demoralising, even for the most motivated of people. And so this is our opportunity with the pilot to really test this idea around, right, well, how can we actually develop a process and develop our policies that are really community friendly. So at the other end of it, we want to generate a toolkit to help all Australian local governments where we can provide advice around, right, well, what does good policy look like, and what does a good process look like? And so we want to support that conversation that you all have at an internal level if you really want to get behind street play. That toolkit was meant to be ready come June. It's not now for a raft of reasons that you'll be familiar with. So we're seeking an extension with Sport Australia to extend our pilot. So we were halfway through the pilots when COVID-19 came knocking at the door. But really stay tuned for that toolkit. I encourage you all to sign up for our e-news. You can do that via our website, and we'll let you know as soon as it's available. We're also submitting to Federal Health to continue funding the movement and to Sport Australia. So we are very much a not-for-profit charity, and we'll put our hand up wherever we can to get some dollars to keep things happening. But it's really exciting. It is, and we've struck up a really interesting relationship with Playing Out over in the UK. They're a group that's actually scaled the street play movement to 1,000 streets around the UK already. They've had some wins, so it came out of Bristol Council. So there's 200 Playing Out streets in Bristol Council, and Bristol Council have gotten on board and said, you know what, we're actually going to create a pass that covers residents for 12 months. So they only have to jump through the red tape once, and we'll cover them for 12 months. And you know what, if they want to close down their street for 2 hours on a Sunday, between these times, they can go ahead and do it. And also they've been able to push national legislation through whereby residents don't have to advertise the fact that they're closing down these streets. We're not talking about big, busy roads. We're talking about quiet residential streets. So we're hoping that sanity will prevail. And look, we're taking a lead from these people internationally who have done a really good job. In the UK, they embrace risk a little bit more than we do, and they support their residents to sign waivers on public liability insurance, so they don't even have to worry about getting public liability, which is kind of an interesting one for councils across the board in Australia, whether or not we'll embrace that kind of risk. I guess it's TBC, but we're happy to push the envelope and the conversation. Now, the other thing we're doing, and I feel a little bit premature talking about this, is we're working on our Play Today campaign. Now Play Today is our campaign which underpins our next strategy, our next 5-year strategy. And this really speaks to the point that we want all Australians out there supporting our child's right to play. Our data tells us that only 1 in 3 children play outdoors on a daily basis. So that's not good enough as far as we're concerned. We really need to hammer home that message that parents or the gatekeepers of our children need to provide permission, time and space for our children to get outdoors and play every day. So what we're doing is we've pitched to Department of Health for some money. We've teamed up with Early Childhood Australia and Playgroup Australia. They do a fantastic job working across the early years sector, and they do a fantastic job promoting play within kindergartens, within childcare, within playgroups. We want to promote play within the home and within communities, and Play Today is our national call to action to get us all working together. So again, please stay tuned on that one. There'll be lots of opportunities for us to work with councils. We'd love to work with all councils, particularly in Victoria. And so please again sign up to our e-news and we can keep you in the loop with those opportunities as they arise. But I think that's enough from me. Barb, I'm going to shoot it back to you, and you can see us out.
Thanks, Kieran. You can see why I feel that I'm the luckiest woman in the world to have a colleague like Kieran, because it's just terrific to be able to work with people. And I guess that's the point of the internet connections that we're experiencing today, is to literally make connections with people. We're very concerned about people's mental health in this situation, and with our new website, and I do urge you to have a bit of a look because it's quite radically different from what you've seen before. We're attempting to put on there a whole lot of material to help people as to how to get outside, and even before playgrounds were closed, we were saying to people via the website and social media, you need to get outside. And in fact, it's interesting, in the Age this morning, there's a comment from someone about how there's obviously been a significant increase in people being outside. And I think we have to do our best as a sector, and we see ourselves very much as part of your sector, our sector, the recreation sector, in keeping people outside, because clearly it is so strongly connected with people's health and well-being. And so hopefully whenever this is all over, if it is ever all over, we've developed means of getting outside. The last thing, Mandy, I wanted to say was we're having a look at a very different kind of a training proposition for the future. Because we're now national, well, clearly the need to look at how we do training outside Victoria has needed a good look at. But now that we have this added imperative to be able to connect, we think that people are wanting access to information and argument, debate in different ways. And we've been very much motivated by one of our board members, Kylie Branley, who runs the out of school hours sector in Queensland. They have, over the last year, apparently increased their income 10 times by providing a whole lot of online webinar, interactive kind of training. And so we're quite sure that people will respond well to shorter bits of communication as opposed to the traditional come and spend 2 days at Westerfolds Park. Now, we'll still do that, and because it is a terrific program, but we want to be able to deliver training for people across the country in shorter ways. And so, Maddie, that I think is probably enough from us.
Yeah, fabulous. Thanks to both of you. And Kieran, it totally resonates with me, the program that you're running, because you might have been BMX, but I was roller skating in the 80s on the street. And Kerry, I'm not sure, which one would you have been? Kerry Irwin, I reckon you might have been a roller skater too, perhaps. You're on mute, so I can't lip read.
We were making our own play experiences in vacant blocks with, pulleys and, tree houses. And I was that era. I'm a bit younger, a bit older.
Yeah, so I think it is fabulous, and it is amazing to actually see that this, as you said, Barb, a lot of people are getting outside. And a lot of people are using our streets. So if the program was ready to roll, this would actually be the perfect time to deliver it, because there's far less cars on the street and traffic. And there is evidence of municipalities opening up their streets to play now, or, walking, because obviously we've got to keep our distance, walking and cycling. So I think the work you're doing is really, really great. People should get on the website, playaustralia.org.au. It's a great website. I think you've just relaunched that, Barb. Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yep.
We just relaunched ours too, and we know how. Thank you to Joe again in the top left. We just relaunched our website. You've done yours. I got in and had a look this morning, and it's really easy to follow. So get in there, follow these guys' newsletters, and you'll get all the information you need. Now, I think we need to jump into our breakout rooms, because we've got about half an hour to talk about some specific issues. So I'm going to hand over to Joe to do his magic